Hello, philosophy class, and welcome to our double period for today. How exciting! You don't have to look at me. I'm sure that's disappointing for everybody. But alas, let's get on with the lesson. So, this document I'm looking at now will be saved in the post where you click this video link. I'm just going to go through everything here quickly for you, just so you know exactly what's going on. So you do have a task to complete today, which relates to the Matrix and the Truman Show. You've got a little bit of research to do on this idea here as well. So Plato's allegory of the cave. Now you might have heard of Plato. He is a very old school philosopher. There's no photos of him. He lived before Jesus' time, so no photos, but these are artist impressions of what he looked like. He's often seen with his finger pointing up in the air, gesturing to the heavens or to a higher realm. He was sort of interested in those sorts of things. And the interesting thing about Plato is that the ideas that underpin the Matrix and the Truman Show are ideas that came from him. So Plato, I think his dates are like 2400 BC, so that's 2000 years before Jesus' time. And Jesus's time was exactly 2020 years ago from now, not to the dot, but that's how the years work. So we live in 2020. That means about 2020 years ago was the time of Jesus. So 24-ish hundred years before that was Plato's time. And Plato is thought of as like the father of Western philosophy. Uh, and his ideas endure to this day. So that in itself is pretty epic. And The Matrix, which we watched and loved, and The Truman Show, one of just a couple of movies that draw on Plato's ideas about reality. So there's a couple of extra things I need to add to this document, which include a couple of videos that relate to Plato's allegory of the cave. So you need to learn about this. Let me just find my videos. I've got some links here somewhere for you. Beautiful. Okay, so I've got a 5-minute video here. Now these videos are very similar to ones that we've watched in class before. So this is going to give you a bit of a background briefing on Plato's allegory of the cave. If you watch these videos, you should have a pretty good understanding. I've also got some pictures which I'll show you, and I'll put the links into the pictures as well. Okay, so I had some pictures of Jesus, just to remind you who he was. So I wanted to point out that Plato, Plato's time was well before Jesus' time. So Christianity and Jesus, they're sort of the same thing. So Jesus Christ, Christianity, that's where that whole idea came from. So before Jesus, Plato and a couple of his philosopher buddies were thinking these crazy epic ideas about reality, which, as I said, they endure to this day. So that's Plato. These screens here, of course, are from Truman, which I'm sure you remember and enjoyed. The Matrix, I've got that one open as well. You remember Neo, of course. So I've got a quote in here from Truman. We accept the reality with which we are presented. So it was this guy who said that, and he was in charge of a world that was made for this guy. Um, and Truman never knew any better. Truman was stuck inside this reality show, and for him that was his reality because he was born straight into it. He never saw anything different, so he never had a reason to question it. Now Neo was in the same situation, but he wasn't born into a reality TV show. He was born into a computer simulation. That again, he knew nothing different. So he and the rest of humanity had no idea that reality wasn't the realest of realities. Now, interestingly, old Plato, where'd he go? Back in Plato's time, there was no such thing as reality TV. There was no such thing as, crazy computers that you could plug into the back of your head that would create a simulation or anything like that. But he was still convinced that, like in Truman and like in The Matrix, the reality that was presented to him and to everyone was not the realist version of things that a human has access to. And the way he articulated that was with his idea of the allegory of the cave. So back to this document. Watch these two videos. They both explain the allegory of the cave really well. And I'll show you a couple of pictures very quickly, which are a little demonstration of that allegory of the cave. So I'm going to put links into those as well. So this first one here shows humanity. So that's us all sitting there. I hope you can see my mouse waving over that. And that's basically where we're born. We're born in chains and shackles and we're stuck looking this way. We don't ever see what's behind us. We only see what's in front of us. And the only things that appear in front of these people inside this cave here are shadows that are cast from this fire. So the fire makes light. There's a roadway here where things are held up to make shadows, and the shadows are cast on this wall in front of these people. So the only thing they ever see is the shadows, and for them, that is the most real thing. Got another picture here. So you can see here the shadows dancing on the wall, and these prisoners here who have been here their whole life, they've never seen anything else, they've never known anything else. So to them, this is reality. So you can imagine Neo, he was basically born here, but you know, this is a much more primitive version of it. Neo's was obviously much more technologically advanced, and Truman, of course, was in the same situation. We've got another example here. So again, you've got the people here who are shackled. They cannot move, they cannot turn their heads around. So all they ever see from the day they are born, the day they open their eyes, is these shadows cast on the wall. And they see the shadow of the cat, okay? But it's not a real cat. In fact, if you go over here to what's being cast, that's not a real cat either. Okay, so Plato thought, yeah, there's a much more real version of these things. But these prisoners, who he said were us, they didn't know about it. All right, so back to the task. I'll just copy that picture over because that was a good one. Boom. All right, so you've got two videos to watch up top. Then you've got 1, 2, there was a third picture, I'm sure. Grab that one. So you've got 3 pictures that you can refer to. And then we've got a task. Okay, so we've got The Matrix, The Truman Show, and Plato's Allegory of the Cave. The movies we watched both borrow a very old philosophical idea, an idea that is summed up well in this quote from Truman. We accept the reality with which we are presented. Your task today is to respond creatively to that idea. And by being creative, that basically means you can make something about this idea. You can make whatever you like. Here are some suggestions for you. A drawing, painting, video, screen capture. So that's what I'm doing now, screen capture. You could write an essay. You could write a letter to your younger self, a letter to your older self, a letter to God, a letter to yourself from God, a photo montage, a collection of annotated memes, collage, audio recording, brainstorm or mind map, song, rap, board game, card game, PowerPoint, poem, dialectic. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Some kind of epic art, some kind of genius Photoshop creation, some kind of epic Lego creation, clothing design, tattoo design, play, speech. Now, these are just a few suggestions. You can make absolutely whatever you want, okay? You can be as boring and everyday as you like and just write an essay in your book with your pen. No problems whatsoever. But if you want to, do anything that you like, you want to bust out the Legos, be my guest, okay? All you have to do is relate it to this idea here, okay? We accept the reality with which we are presented, okay? So we explored that through the Matrix. We explored it through Truman. You're going to watch some videos on the allegory of the cave today. Okay, so you will respond creatively to this idea. We accept the reality with which we are presented. So you're totally free to choose how you respond. If you could send me a message and let me know what you plan to do, that would be really good. Now I've got brainstorm and mind map here. If you want to do one of those, that's fine. If you're struggling for an idea, that's a really good place to start, okay? So think about the things that really stuck in your head when we watch these films. Think about the things that stick in your head when you watch these videos. And really think like, does any of this relate to me or could it relate to me? That's really what we want to boil it down to is any of this worth believing, worth learning about? Is there any truth in this? Now, if you don't think there is, that's fine too. Okay, so you can create something that suggests that these things are amazing, but you can also create something that suggests these are crap if that's the way you feel. Okay. Now, if you do something like a Lego or an art, it'd be really good to have some text that goes with it, just to explain from your point of view what I'm looking at, and especially to explain how it relates to this idea. We accept the reality with which we are presented. A little bit of an explanation of how it relates will be useful to me. So you're free to choose how you respond. This is an assessed item. Okay, so you have all of today to work on this. And I've set a due date of Thursday week. So not Thursday this week, Thursday the following week. So that'll be Thursday, April 30. That will be when I would like to see your work, or I would like to get a couple of photos of your work or something like that. Now I don't have a rubric at the moment, but I will create a rubric so you know exactly how I'm going to mark you. And I think that's all I can tell you. So feel free to watch this video as many times as you need to. You've got links to video 1 and video 2, and you've got image 1 here, image 2, image 3. All right, so this document will be saved exactly as it looks now, and I'll save that underneath the link to the video you've just clicked. I'll just put a really cool picture of Plato at the top. Which Plato will be like? What about this one? Oh, that's a beauty. There he is. He's always gesturing upwards in a lot of his depictions. That's him hanging out with his buddy Aristotle. They used to talk to each other all the time about awesome philosophical things. That was their thing. They didn't have TV, didn't have Netflix. So they just philosophized. And the cool thing about these two is that they were doing this about 5,000 years ago, and their ideas were that epic. We still talk about them now. I mean, I'm talking about them now. You're listening. His stuff's 5,000 years old. That in itself it's pretty noteworthy. All right, so I'll post this up. I'll be online all day today, especially during your class. I'm especially available during your class, but all your teachers are going to be on Edmodo doing this and that throughout the day. So feel free to message anytime you need to. If I don't respond straight away, I'll certainly respond next time I'm at my PC. And good luck. I hope that you can produce some really epic, thought-provoking, deep, cool, creative stuff. Okay.